Realizing you have a crush can be intense. I've been there and I completely understand. Of course, we're giddy about it, but underneath, there might be some anxiety over what they think about us. Do they like us back? Who knows? For you, it can get mixed with sexual fantasies as well. You might even wonder why such a thing happens. Let's dive into some of the reasons below.
1. You haven't realized you're attracted to them. Actually, this happened to me more than once. Sometimes we're so into our heads that we can't understand what we're feeling. So, cue the sexual fantasies. You can be attracted to someone physically or mentally, and the fantasies are a big sign of this. Why does this happen? There are 3 main reasons. All these things, feeling attracted, comfortable, or at ease with someone, are great triggers for sexual fantasies to start. The result is that you start developing romantic or sexual feelings toward this person.
2. Loneliness is getting to you. I get it. I was in the same boat. You feel lonely and slightly depressed, and you start fantasizing about someone you like. Loneliness can get even heavier if you've been single for a while. This is why we sometimes develop crushes on friends with who we had a purely platonic relationship. It's tempting to seek out comfort from someone we already know and love, especially if we feel seen and understood by them. Consider this when you have sexual fantasies about someone you know and didn't expect to fantasize about. Sometimes, all we want is a connection that makes us feel better and chases away the loneliness. As simple as that. Of course, this doesn't mean that the person you fantasize about is the one or will effectively make you feel better. But the idea of not being lonely anymore might be more appealing than the reality of this connection. You know, I want to tell you something. Loneliness can lead to severe health conditions, so you'd better look for a way to connect with others. I'm not telling you to go to your crush and express your feelings. It's not the best thing to do if you're not prepared. Instead, I recommend you listen to what relationship expert Bobby Rio says. In his video, he shares a few simple but highly powerful techniques on how to reach out to women and make them interested in you on a deeper level.
3. You've had a wet dream. Wet dreams start in puberty and never really go away, even if you don't remember them over the years. However, having a sex dream about someone you know can help you remember and develop new fantasies. I want to highlight that there's nothing shameful about sex dreams, and they can be the start of a very interesting conversation with your crush if you're brave enough for that. If you're unsure of their feelings or how comfortable they feel speaking about spicy topics, you don't have to tell them about it. Just remember, dreams don't reflect your values or make you a bad person in any way, shape, or form. Most of the time, it's a way for the brain to process stuff that happens when we're awake. If you've been feeling differently about your crush and you start having sex dreams about them, it might be time to stop and feel your feelings.
4. You've been worrying about your crush. Sometimes women daydream about their crush saving them from a fire, to put an example. On the other hand, men also wonder what their crush would do if something went wrong with their lives. What I mean is that it's normal to worry about how our crush could potentially react to the significant events in our lives. If we think they'd be worried, we might wonder to what extent, and so on. But how come this can trigger a sexual fantasy, you may ask? Let me give you an example. If you tell your crush that someone you dated has been bothering you, their worry might cause them to get closer to you and become a bit possessive. And we all know how high-stakes situations can sparkle other kinds of feelings. It can happen the same vice versa. If you're fantasizing about a hot makeout session after a jealousy scene, you're not deranged or crazy. You're normal. It's just your mind going over fictional scenarios.
5. You've had more physical contact. The problem with having sexual fantasies is that keeping our hands off our crush in real life gets increasingly difficult. Trust me, I know how it feels when you just want to grab them and, well, you know. So, if you had more physical contact with your crush lately, it can be the reason why your sexual fantasies exist in the first place. Of course, I mean the kind of physical contact that is accepted or welcomed in a platonic relationship, such as a hug, or even cuddling if that's your thing. But over time, you might find yourself using every excuse in the book to touch them. Examples? Touching your crush, even as a friend, may provoke sexual fantasies. So, if you don't have a touch barrier, you can expect some wild dreams.
6. You've been playfully flirting. Yeah, I know, it's one of the first things you thought about. Nobody wants to risk it all and outright confess their feelings. At least, not at first. So, the way we might start hinting at our intentions can be through light flirting. If your crush has been making playful suggestions or jokes with sexy undertones, you might have started fantasizing about them. After all, it's normal for our minds to make up fake scenarios that we want to happen in real life. Something as little as a joke can provoke sexual fantasies. However, you can't always shy away from expressing your feelings. I know there should be a time and place for that. But it's crucial for you to find the courage and tell your crush how you feel at some point. Because you just never know how they'll react back. In my personal experience, I felt very shy to speak up my truth. I'd never see myself openly expressing my feelings or even standing up for myself. That was until I discovered ways to tap into my personal power. When you learn to trust yourself and tap into the incredible pool of personal power within you, you'll find the courage you need. You see, we all have an amazing amount of potential. We're all capable of achieving more than we realize. Happiness is in reach, we just look for it in all the wrong places. And this has a knock-on effect on everything else in our lives, including our relationships. I learned this from the shaman Ruda Ayand. Somehow, I've stumbled upon his teachings and they resonated with me. Ruda helped thousands of people restore balance to their lives, discover their personal power, and live life with passion at the heart of everything they do. He uses a unique approach that combines ancient shamanic techniques with an effective modern-day twist.
7. You're attracted to them more than you thought. Whether this is consciously or unconsciously, if they're your type, fantasies can start at any point. To add to this, sexual fantasies can make you start behaving differently around them. Imagine if you have a conversation with your friends about your type. You might not even realize it, but you'll be describing your crush as someone who is your perfect type. Another example would be if you always mention your crush whenever you speak about something funny or enjoyable in your life. Without realizing it, you might dedicate a lot of your attention to them and it may eventually lead to having strong sexual fantasies about them. Don't worry, it's perfectly fine. We've all been there.
8. You've been noticing their appearance. I'm not saying that science says it. The amygdala, which is the area of the brain in control of emotions, is more active in men than in women when they're stimulated visually. In short, sexy pictures cause more of a reaction in men than in women. If your crush is attractive to you, you usually check them out from head to toe, and thus fantasies are born. Beware. If you do it too much, they might notice your actions and your wandering glances and start asking questions about your feelings. Try to keep it to sideways glances or like you're looking at something else if you don't want to get caught. Be discreet, unless you have no problem telling your crush about your feelings. Checking out their assets can trigger more sexual fantasies if you catch my drift.
9. You are jealous and don't know how to deal with it. Ugh, jealousy is an ugly, ugly feeling. It's hard to deal with it. Unfortunately, this can also be the starting point for sexual fantasies. If your crush endlessly talks about their love life, you might imagine yourself in the place of those people. You can even think that you'd be better than all of them. It's also normal to think about what they'd do if you suddenly started dating or flirting with someone else. Would they talk to you and declare their feelings? Would they take action? For some of us, jealousy can be a way to show deeper emotions, although it's not the best way by far.
10. You've just watched a sexy scene in a TV show or movie. Lots of stories have sexy or downright erotic scenes. It's easy to project yourself in those scenarios along with your crush. It gets more difficult if you're watching with them, though. If sexy fantasies start in your mind, you don't have to be ashamed or worried about them. Always remember that crushes are super normal and there's nothing wrong with sexual fantasies. You can even see these scenes as a great form of daydreaming, inspiring courage to talk about your feelings. I know I've done it in the past.
Subscribe, like and share. Thanks for watching this video.